The evening forecast, clouding up, falling back to 28 degrees overnight. Overcast tomorrow, Friday's high in the mid-40s.
This is special coverage of the Senate impeachment trial from NPR News. I'm Michelle Martin, and I'm joined here in the studio by Tim Mak and Franco Ordonez, and on Capitol Hill, Kelsey Snell. The Senate is on a short break. We are waiting for the senators to head back to the chamber. We see some of them heading back there now, and we assume that they will resume shortly. I just want to play another moment from today's session. Deputy White House Counsel Patrick Philbin was asked if a flawed process in the House made the Senate proceeding now, quote, the fruit of a poisonous tree, and Mr. Philbin agreed.
Yes, this entire proceeding here is now the fruit of the poisonous tree. It is the fruit of a proceeding that was fatally deficient in due process from the start to the beginning. And as a result of that, it produced a record that is totally unreliable. Can't be relied on here for any conclusion other than acquitting the president.
House impeachment manager Jerry Nadler, a Democrat of New York, said President Trump does not have the right to make a blanket claim of executive privilege to reject any subpoena from House investigators.
We have voted to impeach the president for, among other things, Article 2 of the impeachment is total defiance of House subpoenas. And the president announced in advance, I will defy all the subpoenas. What does this mean? It means there's no information to Congress. It means a claim of monarchical dictatorial power. If Congress has no information, it cannot act. If the president can defy it, he can dispute certain specific claims, he can claim privilege, etc. But to defy categorically all subpoenas, now to do that with the court, to say that Congress has no power at all, only the executive power.
Tim Mak and Franco Ordonez. We now see that the Chief Justice is back in the chair, and Senate Majority Leader is calling the Senate back into session.
On behalf of myself and Senators Risch, Graham, Ernst, Fisher, Cruz, and Perdue. Thank you.
The senator from Idaho has sent up a question, joined by a number of other senators, as you heard. And if you're just joining us, the sides are taking turns. The Democrats ask a question, the Republicans ask a question. They determine to whom it goes.
For the president, How many witnesses have been presented to the Senate at this point in this trial? How many pages of documentary evidence have been put in the record before the Senate in this trial? And how many other clips and transcripts of evidence have been presented to the Senate in this trial?
Mr. Chief Justice, Senators, thank you for that
Deputy White House
question.
Counsel Patrick Philbin once again.
I think it is important to recognize that because the House managers keep talking about the need for witnesses, you can't have a trial without witnesses. You've seen a lot of witnesses. There were 17 witnesses who were deposed and testified in public, 12 in public, 17 who were in closed hearings below. So far, you have seen in these presentations 192 video clips from 13 different witnesses. So testimony was shown here to you, just as you would in a trial in an ordinary court sometimes play the video of a deposition instead of having the witness take the stand. You've seen video clips from 13 different witnesses. The House managers have dramatically wheeled into the Senate a record. I think it was reported as being 29,000 pages. I think the more official number is 28,578 pages. So you've got over 28,000 pages of documents submitted into the record provisionally in evidence in this trial, subject later to potential objections for hearsay and other evidentiary objections. You've also heard here the arguments that have been presented, along with the presentation of both the documentary and testimonial evidence by video clip and by slides that were put up. You've heard argument for up to 24 hours from each side. We didn't take all of our time, but the House managers argued for over 21 hours, putting on with their video clips and their excerpts from documents in the record their case. So at this point, there has been a lot put on here in terms of a trial. You've seen the witnesses in the clips, all the most relevant parts. You've seen the documents put up in excerpts on the screens. And as a result of this, the House managers have consistently said over and over again, before they came here, they said they had an overwhelming case. It was already buttoned down, they didn't need anything else. They said when they got here that it was proven. Every single allegation, every line in each article of impeachment, they said proven, proven, proven. We don't think that that's true, but that's their words. That's what they're telling you, that they've had sufficient evidence to make their case. They said proven, sufficient, uncontested, and overwhelming at least 68 times in the proceedings on the floor here. Manager Nadler told us just today that they think they've not only proved it beyond a reasonable doubt, but beyond any doubt, because of the evidence that they've already put on in front of you. We don't think that's true. We think we've demonstrated it's not. But the point is that the House managers have already put on a substantial amount of testimony from witnesses through their clips of prior deposition or hearing testimony. They've already presented to you a large portion of the most relevant documents from those 28,000. You've heard from the witnesses. You've seen where their testimony conflicts. You can see which is the better, more persuasive version of the facts. You've been able to see what it is that they have in the record that they say is overwhelming, already ready to go to trial. And this proceeding, therefore, has already had a lot of the earmarks of a trial. So don't be taken in by the idea that we can't have a trial here. You can't have a valid proceeding unless they bring someone in here to testify live. Because it wouldn't be just one person. If we start to go down that route, it's not presenting the case that was prepared in the hearings below. It's opening up discovery for an entirely new case. And there'd have to be depositions and witnesses on both sides. And there's no need to do that if they really believe what they're telling you, that it's already overwhelming. It's already proven. There's no need to go on to anything else when you've already seen so much and House managers had their chance to prepare their case. And again, I would also just make the point to bear in mind, what is the precedent set? What would the precedent be set if this chamber has to become the investigatory body for impeachments that were not prepared properly in the House? Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Mr. Chief Justice,
Senator from Arizona.
I submit a question to the desk for the President's Counsel on behalf of myself, Senators Manchin, Senators Murkowski, and Senator Collins.
Thank you.
That was Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema sending a question to the Chief Justice. And we're trying to figure out who is going to answer the question. Important to note, it's unusual in the modern age, but all of this seems to be done by hand. The questions are being written by hand on cards. They're being brought by a page to the Chief Justice.
And the other senators for counsel for the President. The Logan Act prohibits any U.S. citizen without the authority of the United States from communicating with any foreign government with the intent to influence that government's conduct in relation to any controversy with the United States. Will the President assure the American public that private citizens will not be directed to conduct American foreign policy or national security policy unless they have been specifically and formally designated by the President and the State Department to do so?
That was a question from Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema. She's directed it to both sides, and the President's defense team is answering first. And here's Patrick Fuller once again.
Senators, thank you for the question. Let me preface it, let me answer in several parts. The first is, I just want to make clear that there was no conduct of foreign policy being carried on here by a private person. The testimony was clear from Ambassador Volker, and I assume that the reference would be to Mr. Giuliani, the President's private counsel. Ambassador Volker was clear that he understood Mr. Giuliani just to be a source of information for the President, and someone who knew about Ukraine, and someone who spoke to the President. And in fact, it was the testimony that it was the Ukrainians, Andrei Yermak, who asked to be connected to Mr. Giuliani simply because he was someone who could provide information to the President. And Ambassador Volker testified that it was not his understanding, he did not believe that Mr. Giuliani was carrying out sort of policy directives of the President, but rather indicating his views of what he thought would be something useful for the Ukrainians to convince the President of their anti-corruption bona fides. So just wanted to make that point. It is, of course, the President's policy is always to abide by the law, by the laws. I'm not in a position to make pledges for the President here, but the President's policy is always to abide by the laws and would continue to do so. I think it is worth pointing out that many presidents, starting with President Washington, have relied on persons who are their trusted confidants, but who are not actually employees of the government, to assist in the conduct of foreign diplomacy. President Washington relied on Gouverneur Morris to carry messages in certain circumstances, I believe, to the French. FDR had his confidant who he relied on in certain circumstances to be a go-between with foreign powers, and there are a list of others. They were mentioned in some of the testimony during the House proceedings.